Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Dr. Steve Schlintz, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Dental Practice Freedom Radio. And today we are going to talk about stagnation. Now, that is not a country full of deer. If you get it, stagnation, get it? That is about the inevitable thing that'll happen to you at some point in your life and probably a lot of times in your life. And it's when you start to feel stale about what it is you're doing and how to combat that. Now, most of you probably at this point know that I do a lot of coaching on the practice side with case acceptance and doing more comprehensive cases, complete care, kind of more of a wellness bent to my practice and my philosophy and what I espouse and how I help, clients on that journey. You may or may not know that the first 2 or 3 years of coaching, I actually dealt specifically with mindset work and emotional states and how to start to tune into what it is you actually want. A lot of law of attraction based stuff. That kind of gets sometimes a negative connotation, but I'm telling you, some of that stuff is absolutely mind-blowing how it works. And so I have a pretty diverse background on the coaching elements when it comes to mindset, practice development, personal development. And I've had just amazing mentors and coaches in my life, whether they've been direct mentors or through books. And there's always been this constant learning. And I will tell you the last year and a half, 2 years now, probably even maybe 2.5 years, I felt kind of this downward progression of stagnation. And it's, I know a lot of people talk to me and say you create a lot of stuff. It's a podcast, it's dental sales secrets, it's thinking into results and kind of transitioning that into other avenues. You still practice, that's a lot of things. I don't know how you could stagnate. And the reality is you can stagnate very fast. And what I was finding is that I was getting very confused. This is kind of a personal podcast episode because, everything should be great and hey, I'm a coach and I'm helping you and everything is perfect. If anybody that's coaching you is telling you everything is perfect in their own life and it all goes according to plan, you probably want to run, because the reality is that never happens. I'm pretty sure Jeff Bezos has issues still. He went through a divorce and he's still the richest person on the planet. But I'm pretty sure that guy doesn't have everything going for him, even though it looks like it might be going for him. Elon Musk has some, there's a lot of people that you think might be doing everything perfect, but they probably have some inner demons and some issues they're working through. And on a very small scale, I wish I had the financial resources of Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett or Elon Musk. But on a much smaller scale, the coaching business did really well last year. In fact, it was the best year I've ever had as a coach. And I have a pretty small operation. I run a pretty tight ship. I don't have other coaches working for me right now. I don't really hire anyone to run that business. I have virtual assistants at times. I use independent contractors at times. I have people helping me on certain aspects of the business at times. But for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much a one-man shop at this point. And a lot of that is by choice for me. I'm still learning, developing, growing, and adapting. And the practice is moving along, and there's some things that are happening that I really can't talk about. But some clarity will be coming in the next, hopefully, month or so on that. But to make a long story short, you might be asking, well, what does this have to do with stagnation? From the outside, it looked like I was creating and I wasn't stagnating. On the inside, I was stagnating. I could tell you I was really starting to stagnate. I wasn't as engaged as I once was. I wasn't creating at the level that I wanted to be creating. And, if I was me and I was coaching somebody and I was seeing them doing what I was doing, I'd probably say, go reset your goals, go get something you're inspired about, and things like that. And that would be partially correct. I started to look at why I was stagnating. Now, there's some personal things, and obviously I can't really talk about some of it right now, but there was a lot of extraneous stuff happening that was wearing me down emotionally and energetically. That will thwart your creativity pretty fast. But the other thing that I didn't really analyze right away, and it sounds crazy, but I was bored. And as a result, because I was bored, I wasn't making new connections. And so part of this, and this is what I encourage you to start to look at. If you are feeling a little bit stuck in your practice or in your life for that matter, it's easy to say, just redefine your goal. You're not moving towards something that inspires you. Get back on purpose, get in your life mission and all that stuff. And sometimes it's a little deeper than that. And you can work through some personal issues, some paradigms, some ideas and belief systems. But sometimes you aren't doing enough to actually be creative and have fun with it. So this is what I started to do. And this is a little bit crazy, but it's gotten me re-inspired about dentistry. It's gotten me re-inspired about coaching. And that magic secret is I started to go outside of dentistry to learn about dentistry. I started to go outside of coaching to learn about coaching. I started to go outside of the traditional things that I was reading and studying to bring back into those fields. Simply put, my mind works best when I start to take ideas that are outside the norm and bring them back into the norm. So for example, those of you who know me know I'm kind of a physics nerd at heart. And I'm a big believer in structure and systems, and not just like practice systems. I'm talking about organizational development. How are things actually structured on a much deeper level? I love that stuff. I love consciousness. I love studying, consciousness, quantum mechanics, just things along those lines. And I used to love studying finance. And it's interesting because when I first graduated from dental school, I was in every investing book I could possibly get my hands on. And I loved it. But somehow I kind of lost sight of that. And recently I said, I'm like really struggling here. I'm struggling with my energy. I'm struggling with my routines. I'm struggling with just about everything in my life. And, as a coach, this isn't supposed to happen. Everything's supposed to be perfect. But it wasn't something that I'm like, okay, well, this is going to debilitate me for the rest of my life. I just have to figure out, why am I stagnating? And I don't think it's goals. There's something else going on here. And I was just trying to get away from the subjects for a while. Like I've studied clinical dentistry and I still like studying clinical dentistry, and I love the sales process, and I love case acceptance, and I love all that stuff, and I love developing myself. But I started to look at it and say, I read the same things over and over, which is good. Repetition's great. I'm studying the same material over and over, but I'm not learning anything fresh, and I'm not taking it to my practice. I've said this before. One of my mentors, Dr. Michael Schuster, said dentistry is like his dojo. It's his place to practice what he's learning. In a lot of ways, I feel the same way. But I wasn't learning new things to actually put into the practice. And that actually, at the root of it, was starting to lead to my stagnation. So what did I do? I started to study again and make a commitment to start to read things unassociated with the field and start to fall in love with the idea of creating and learning again. And so probably in the last 2 weeks now, 3 weeks, I've read about 10 books outside of the field of dentistry or practice management or anything like that. I started to read books on finance again. I started to read books on quantum mechanics. I started to read books on mindset. And I will tell you, it's getting me reinvigorated on coaching and my practice and the things I do for my patients. Because what happened is I started to get beyond myself. I started to lose sight of the ideas of like everything that I should be doing with my life and then feel bad about myself. And I started to fall in love with just the idea of reading again and studying again and enjoying the learning process for what it is, which is gathering new information, applying information, getting feedback, and then figuring out new ways to modify, change, and adapt. And so, we can get into this trap of setting the right goals and getting so hard on ourselves. Like, oh, I need the right goal. I need the goal. I need to get clear on what's my why, like at the end of the day, if you guys really think about this, everybody's why is pretty much consistent. It's they have a family. It's usually their family. That's their why. They'll have some greater purpose. I want to help people, so most of those whys, why do you do what you do, really at the end of the day are very similar. And so if you say, well, I don't know, I just can't get motivated and I'm tapping into my why, it might be deeper than that. And it could be just that you're getting kind of bored, right? If you're in dentistry, you've been doing the same thing day in and day out. And a lot of what we do, unless you're, strictly managing practices at this point, you have multiple practices. Yeah, you do different things on a daily basis, but most of your days look the same. And so sometimes in order to wake you up from that stagnation, you have to get a new source of information that challenges your brain to think something new. That's why if you never played a musical instrument, you play a musical instrument. It creates a new learning mode for you, and it triggers new synaptic connections that weren't there before. And that will actually lead to more synaptic connections when it comes back to your practice, because now your brain is active, right? So I challenge you, if you are stagnating, maybe you've been doing the same thing in your practice for 15 years and it's like, okay, everything is always the same. I want something new and challenging. You can go back to your goals, but I guarantee you, if you just keep studying more and more dentistry, it probably isn't going to happen for you. Maybe you want to do some things that you've been deeply passionate about for a long time. And then your challenge is to figure out, how do I bring this reinvigorated passion back to what I'm doing in my dental practice? I'm telling you, it can be an absolute game changer for you. And I know it's been happening for a couple of weeks, but it's actually been a process that has happened to me on numerous occasions. And I try to recognize it as fast as I could. There are periods that I've had where I was talking to a client the other day, and he had a quote about boredom, and it's like, you live in the boredom and like, I'm bored. And, what do we typically do when we're bored? We like grab our cell phone and scroll through, Facebook or Instagram or ESPN or CNN or Fox or MSNBC or whatever you go to, whichever is distractionville for you. Challenge yourself to live in the boredom and figure out, what do I really want to be doing right now? I can guarantee you it's not going on Facebook. That's actually not what you really want to be doing. You might say, I want to learn something new. Go do that. Go spend the time to do that. And then you'll be so shocked at how much renewed passion and energy you have towards some of the things that you think you've been disenfranchised by, right? There have been times in the last, it's a really long podcast episode, so I apologize, but there have been times in the last few years where I have asked myself, do I still really want to practice dentistry? What does that look like for me? And, if you were to ask me in 3 years if I'm still practicing dentistry, I couldn't tell you the answer to that question. I don't know. But I will tell you that going back to my roots of learning and the creativity that comes with it, and just how my brain feels like it's on fire sometimes in a good way when I'm learning something new and it's challenging my worldview and the way that I process information, my practice always benefits from that. My coaching always benefits from that. And I always benefit from that. So that's my happy place. That's what challenges me. And it might be something different for you. It might be picking up a new hobby, and not necessarily reading a book or anything, but picking up a new hobby, Challenging your brain in unique and different ways will have direct impact on your success as a dentist. It just gives you more vibrancy in life. It gives you a more well-rounded skill set that you can draw from. It allows you to make connections at a much deeper level. And just all in all, it's more fun. So hopefully, this is a little bit different of a podcast. This is more of like a day in the life of Steve than it is necessarily something that may directly impact your case acceptance process. But I do think it's important that if you feel like you're stagnating, or you've noticed that in the past, that you reinvigorate yourself with something other than just working at it harder or setting new goals. Go find something you really love doing just for the fun of it. And you'd be amazed at how much that's going to impact the rest of your practice. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in. If you could do me a huge favor, leave a review, a rating, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps me get my message out. And if you are actually ready to start to take your practice to the next level, maybe you've been on the fence for a long time about, oh, could I do more of a wellness-based practice? Could I do more comprehensive dentistry? What does that look like? How do I do that? I encourage you to reach out to me. I'd love to be able to help you in any way, shape, or form that I possibly could. And with that being said, you guys take care. Have a great day, and I'll see you at the next episode.